Please welcome Cyclops, Kid County.
What's up, guys? It's looking like one hell of a weekend with yet another Doomsday trailer / sneak peek where we basically see Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom swatting away Thor like he's a goddamn fly. We also got the official trailer for VisionQuest and a whole lot of details with Vision's new white suit, but what truly broke the internet is the announcements at D23 Expo by Kevin Feige, who just gave us a literal cast list for X-Men, guys. Ever since Disney bought 20th Century Fox, this is the thing I think we've all been the most excited for. We knew that the new X-Men movie, directed by Jake Schreier, would begin post-2027 after this multiverse phase of the MCU ends with the two major entries, Doomsday and Secret Wars. Then, of course, it was announced that the X-Men reboot was scheduled for the 5th of May, 2028, which is still very far away, but that didn't stop the rumors and fan castings. But we no longer have to speculate, guys. We've got official names that are an absolute mixed bag. We've got some big names, some breakout stars, and even a Broadway artist, if you can believe that. We've got our official Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, and of course, our main villain. So, without any further ado, let's explore exactly who's playing who and how we're feeling about these casting choices.
Sadie Sink, Jean Grey. Okay, we're going to start off with one that should come as no surprise to you guys because, of course, you've probably already seen Brand New Day. Sadie Sink is definitely going to reprise her role as Jean Grey in the upcoming X-Men reboot, and hopefully she'll continue playing the role for a long time. In Brand New Day, we saw that this Jean's origin story is quite different from the ones we've come across so far. She and her sister Sarah were basically orphans who were abandoned by their mother when their telepathic and telekinetic powers started showing up. Eventually, though, her sister Sarah was kidnapped and experimented upon by the head of Damage Control, so obviously she set out to find her sister by wreaking absolute havoc on Damage Control with her powers. That is, until she found out her sister was dead, which led to her powers supercharging and her holding miles of New York City hostage in her psychic field. But by the end of the film, Spidey gets through to her and she saves his life before hopping on a bus and starting a new chapter. Now, as it turns out, Sadie Sink didn't actually know much about Jean Grey. She'd just heard the character's name in rumors before she actually met with Kevin Feige and Louis D'Esposito. They explained to her the role, who Jean Grey is, what would be required of Sadie, and most importantly, why they chose her. I'm sure the red hair was a big factor, and of course her brilliant performance in Stranger Things, and her in general being a talented actress who's able to take on complex roles. Yup, we're Sadie Sink fans here, and as she said herself, it wasn't on her bingo card, but when she heard all of it, she knew it was something she'd want to do. Once she was officially on board, that's when her own research began, and she was thorough, guys. She realized that this version of Jean Grey was far different from the ones we saw before, and that instead of seeing her as an established hero, they were going to start the story from the very beginning. From when she was just a hurt teenager, grieving and coping. Someone who was still figuring out her powers, and in fact, hadn't even unlocked her basic potential. In fact, Sink rightly pointed out that her powers had only ever caused harm in her life up until then, and she says, Jean Grey is a hero, she's a good person, but if it takes more to become that, and there's the struggle of it first, I think that just is so compelling. She also started looking at all the previous iterations of Jean Grey to understand how different actors had played it. It's not always easy to translate these powers into real-life actions. Imagine Elizabeth Olsen just wiggling her hands around as Wanda while the red balls of energy are added later via CGI. Making that look not stupid takes a lot of practice, if you ask me, and that's exactly what Sadie Sink did. After seeing all the previous versions of Jean, she decided to go down her own route, one that was based on the particular origin and storyline of this Jean Grey, and fixed it in place so there's a certain amount of consistency and uniqueness. She says herself, but what I landed on was not looking like much effort at all. It's more in the eyes because her power is, at least in this movie, invisible. So when she is using them, it should also be invisible. She realized Jean Grey wasn't supposed to be some big bad Spidey movie villain, instead playing into the whole hurt teenager angle. Someone who's lonely and desperate and has lost the only person in the world who was supposed to stick by them and love them. She even relates that whole aspect to X-Men in general and how none of the heroes were initially heroes, they all made mistakes and their powers hurt people before they finally found the guidance they required and deserved. They never chose that life after all, they were just born that way. She is also super excited for X-Men and has sat down with Schreier too regarding casting and the script and other details. And I can guarantee she's not the only one that's excited. I was super stoked about her performance. It was captivating and powerful and just really well done. She's already playing the most complicated version of Jean Grey, and in our opinion, it's already the best. That said, we'd love to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. Adam Driver, Mr. Sinister. This one's a doozy. Adam Driver, Kylo Ren himself, has been announced as Mr. Sinister, aka the brilliantly twisted geneticist who's obsessed with mutants and their DNA and wants to experiment upon them and clone them. It sounds like Sinister is going to be our first big bad, and he greeted the fans via a video message during the D23 announcements. What was hilarious is that he initially joked about playing Magneto before finally revealing that he was actually playing Nathaniel Milbury, which is one of the many aliases used by Mr. Sinister. Here's what he had to say. When Kevin told me to show up for X-Men, I assumed he meant on set, so instead of being there in California, I'm here at Pinewood Studios on this very lonely soundstage. Kevin and I have been talking for years about maybe joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think we finally found the perfect film at the perfect time. So I'm very excited to be playing Magneto. Nope, even better, Nathaniel Milbury. So I'll be right here waiting for everybody to show up. The fact that they've been talking about his MCU debut for that long, and he finally joins now, means only one thing. They've made a character compelling enough for Driver to officially come on board. And I'm not surprised because Mr. Sinister gives you that room to create a good character arc. A villain that's both menacing and terrifying and unhinged. Driver can tap into his immense talent to truly bring this character to fruition, and considering that he's turned down MCU projects before, this one must have been written well too. In fact, we're already hearing rumors that their vision with this film, and particularly this villain, is to try and lean away from CGI a little and take a more character-driven approach. What a relief, honestly. I'm genuinely looking forward to how it works out. Given Driver's box office history, he's been doing some really good work, and the fact that most of the cast is quite young also shows why he's a necessary addition. He can help ground the rest of them, be the big name, while also helping them shine and reach their potential. Fan reactions are mixed, not because anyone opposes his addition to the cast, but because they think he fits the Magneto role more. But honestly, I'm part of the fan group that's a little tired of Magneto. Of course, he'll be there in the film, but maybe we can move away from him as the villain and explore the crazy, untapped rogues lineup that the X-Men have. Inde Navarrette, Rogue. Next up, we've got one hell of a breakout star. If you haven't heard of or watched Obsession, you're probably living under a rock because everyone, and I mean everyone's been talking about it, and the brilliant performance of Inde Navarrette. So imagine our shock, surprise, and excitement when she was announced to be playing none other than Rogue, the Southern Belle who can pretty much kill people with just a touch by absorbing their powers, and sometimes even their life force. What's even more interesting is that in her press tour after Obsession blew up, Navarrette mentioned wanting to play Mystique many times. She even mentioned that she had met Schreier and spoke with him regarding being a part of the X-Men reboot, but instead of Mystique, she was given the role of Mystique's daughter. Well, adopted daughter, but still. Considering her performance in Obsession, I think she'll do brilliantly as Rogue. She played the character of Nikki so well, perfectly combining the insanity and emotional core, while never letting us, as the audience, forget that she's the actual victim who's been basically possessed. And this idea kind of matches Rogue as well, considering that she does start out as a teenager who's raised and manipulated into becoming a villain and a weapon. What I'm even more excited for is the fact that Inde is a powerhouse of an actor, which means that we might get to see a much stronger and heavy-hitting version of Rogue compared to what Anna Paquin showed us in previous iterations, which leaned more into the self-doubting shy teenager. Don't get me wrong, that was an important side to show, and it was good enough for back then, but it's also time to move away from the tragic and isolating nature of her powers and show us her true immense potential. Rogue's tough, she's sassy, and she's not an easy character to play. Fans were definitely in support of this casting, considering the response she got when she showed up on stage. Honestly, I can't wait for her comments and interviews on this subject. Kit Connor, Scott Summers / Cyclops. This was another huge announcement, and it really signals what Marvel is planning with this X-Men reboot. Our laser-eyed team leader, Scott Summers, is being played by Kit Connor, so if you're noticing our casting lineup, we've got a bunch of youngsters because Marvel definitely has long-term plans for the X-Men, and that's exactly why they're casting people who still have long careers ahead of them. But just because they're relatively young doesn't mean they're lacking in experience, because, let me tell you, Kit Connor has shown some crazy range and acting experience in his career, especially in the last few years. Of course, he stole our hearts as Nick in Heartstopper, and interestingly enough, Nick was also a huge Marvel fan in that story. He also starred as Romeo in Romeo plus Juliet on Broadway, and he did the gritty A24 film Warfare. So if you ask us, he's more than ready to take on Cyclops, and I'm actually so happy and thrilled to hear about this casting. Low-key, Cyclops has been done wrong by the MCU, or, well, Fox, I suppose, in the original X-Men movies. James Marsden was a really good casting choice for Cyclops in the original run, but he was practically just a background character so that Wolverine could be the main man. And hey, I'm not complaining, that truly was the Wolverine era, but right now, with this iteration, we've got a confirmed Cyclops as the core cast and no mention of any Wolverine yet. Clearly, Marvel is telling us that Cyclops is the main character this time around. And honestly, it seems like the audience is really excited for this one. He's charming, he's got range, he's a really great actor, plus he's shown us that he's capable of voice acting as well with his work on The Wild Robot. And considering the fact that, as Cyclops, his eyes will probably be covered by a visor for most of the movie, a lot of the acting and emotions will have to be conveyed by his voice and its modulations. He seems like the perfect fit for that. Fans are also looking forward to seeing his chemistry with Sadie Sink, considering that Jean and Scott aren't just canon in the comics and past X-Men iterations, but the fact that they almost feel like destiny at this point. So we hope they're getting to know each other pretty well, although Feige did mention that D23 was the cast's first time meeting each other, and that too just backstage right before the event. Even when X-23 actress Daphne Keane was asked about Kit Connor's casting as Cyclops, she was just as excited as us. She said, "I think he's perfect. Kit is such a brilliant, funny, talented, charismatic young man, and he's just perfect. Yeah, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about him. He's such a sweet boy, and he's so incredibly talented. I think he's going to kill it. It's going to be great." What's really wonderful about Kit is he brings me this kind of really amazing masculine strength and fragility at the same time. We couldn't agree more. Even as Nick in Heartstopper, he perfectly portrays a football player who is somehow super vulnerable and in touch with his feelings, and always there for his boyfriend Charlie. He has that rough and tough build, but seems like a softie on the inside. Plus, regardless of past roles, I think he's talented enough to throw on any role thrown at him. Samara Weaving, Emma Frost. Next up, we've got our stunningly dangerous blonde telepath, Emma Frost, who's going to be played by Samara Weaving. From what we've heard, director Jake Schreier met with a whole bunch of candidates over the summer, and auditions have been taking place since May until they finally landed on Weaving. And I gotta say, this is another solid casting choice. If you've seen Ready or Not, Ash vs. Evil Dead, or The Babysitter, you know that Weaving is simply brilliant at playing characters who are glamorous and terrifying at the same time, so of course, she'll do justice to a character like Emma Frost. She's super powerful, can turn into diamond, is rich as hell, and also very morally ambiguous. That's not going to be easy to portray, as we've seen from previous iterations. No shade though, but it seems like Samara Weaving might just do a fantastic job of it, not to mention that she's the spitting image of Emma in the comics. If she's given a solid script to work with, then Samara as Emma might just become one of the faces of this reboot. Oh, also, fun fact, Samara has a bit of history with the MCU. You see, it was actually her uncle, Hugo Weaving, who played none other than the Red Skull in Captain America: The First Avenger. How cool is that? Maya Boyd, Ororo Monroe / Storm. This one was definitely a surprise. We heard a bunch of rumors and fan castings regarding Storm, but none of them got it right. Ororo Monroe, aka Storm, is going to be played by Maya Boyd, who comes from a theater and Broadway background, and it's about time we see more of theater actors being cast, especially for a role like Storm. We know she's a mutant who can control the weather, but another aspect that's crucial to her character is how rooted she is to her motherland and culture and heritage. Her being dark-skinned is very important to the story, and we're just so glad to see Maya take on the role. We think she's going to look just as majestic and royal as you'd expect of Storm, and it's a breath of fresh air to see that Marvel didn't just cast whichever actress was trending, but instead went into theaters to find raw, pure talent. And honestly, in the comics, Storm is pretty theatrical if you ask me. While she hasn't given any interviews or made public comments about the casting, hopefully she will soon because we'd love to hear her thoughts. She's responded to the announcement by adding lightning bolt emojis to her Instagram bio, which, by the way, has been blowing up. I'm excited to see the process of her preparing for the role, especially with her strong theater roots, and of course, the final result. Christopher Abbott, Charles Xavier / Professor X. Last but not least, we've got our beloved Professor Charles Xavier, who in the past has been played by extremely iconic actors, including Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy, but this time Marvel has gone down a very different route. They've announced that Christopher Abbott is going to take on the role once Patrick Stewart closes out his chapter as Professor X in Avengers Doomsday. Now, Abbott has been quite the interesting, and may I say controversial choice for this role. You see, Charles Xavier is one of the most important characters in the X-Men franchise, regardless of which iteration or storyline you're referring to. He's one of the world's most powerful telepaths, the founder and headmaster of the first ever School for Mutants, or as he likes to call them, gifted youngsters, and he's also one of the most prominent voices pushing mutant-human coexistence and battling anti-human rhetoric, often helmed by his old friend Magneto. He's obviously an important figure, and he mentors pretty much everyone on our core cast list, so these are some massive shoes to fill. Like, I don't even think they make shoes that size. Jokes aside, fans have some real concerns. Firstly, fans are concerned that his appearance just doesn't give Xavier vibes, and I kinda get it. Both Patrick Stewart and McAvoy have brought this sophisticated British tinge to the character, even though he's very famously not British in the comics. He just went to Oxford to study, and fans feel that dissonance with Abbott. Some have even joked about him bringing an Italian accent. We've also heard people say that he might be too young, but on that account, I do disagree. I think they're trying to gather up a relatively young cast so that this franchise can continue over the years, but I do understand the comparison of Pedro Pascal being cast as Reed Richards and Abbott as Xavier. We just don't quite see the vision yet. However, Abbott was cast over Tom Pelphrey, Bill Skarsgård, Harris Dickinson, and Will Poulter, so clearly, Schreier saw something in him. His audition must have been brilliant, and hey, maybe this will let us forget his role in Kraven the Hunter. Yep, he played the Foreigner, which means he's technically played 2 Marvel characters so far, but I don't think anybody really cares about the Kraven continuity. Regardless of the mixed opinions, which, may I remind you, James McAvoy also received, I'm still intrigued to see his own twist and take on this role. He's a competent actor, and whatever they're cooking up back there, I bet it's going to be great. And there you have it, guys. Our Legacy Mutants will get the ultimate send-off in December as Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and others return to the big screen for one last ride. Then the universe will pretty much collapse in Avengers Secret Wars, and from the ashes will be born a whole new Marvel universe, or at least so we think. That universe will be led by a much younger and very talented cast that low-key makes me kind of hopeful for the future of the MCU. Of course, we're very, very far away from seeing how these predictions will turn out, but for now, it's looking good. And of course, we'll be keeping our eyes and ears open for any other news or announcements. In the meantime, let us know your thoughts on the casting choices in the comments down below, and as usual, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. We'll be bringing you all the hottest X-Men news and MCU updates in the future, but for now, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Excelsior, baby!